Hello, and welcome back to the deep dive. It's great to have you with us again.
Yeah, good to be diving in.
So, if you're looking to sharpen your English skills, maybe you're prepping for an exam, perhaps aiming for more fluency, or, just wanting to tackle complex texts with more confidence.
Then this is definitely for you.
Absolutely. We're looking at a specific list today, Day 6, Part 2, from one of our vocabulary sources.
And the goal isn't just definitions.
No, not at all. We want to really get into the skin of how these words work in English. We'll look at examples, see how they pop up in, say, real exam sentences.
And build that intuitive feel for the language, how it actually lives and breathes.
Exactly. Think of it as a shortcut, not just knowing the words, but really using them effectively.
And what's fascinating, I think, is that words aren't islands. They get their real power, their precise meaning from the context, don't they?
Definitely. The words around them, the sentence structure.
Right, the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
And exploring them this way, through examples, through real usage, it helps build this kind of network in your mind.
Connecting the dots.
Yeah, connecting ideas, spotting patterns. It's much more effective for fluency and understanding than just memorizing lists.
Oh, absolutely. Rote memorization just doesn't stick the same way. And that network, that's what helps you navigate everything, right? From novels to academic papers or, those tricky exam questions.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's unpack this list. We'll go through the words, see what the examples tell us.
Sounds good. Let's jump in. The source material seems to group words together. Sometimes thematically, sometimes maybe just because they look similar.
Could be. We'll take them one by one anyway, see what each word's profile looks like in action.
Okay. Where do we start?
Perfect. Let's start with the first one here. Scarce.
Okay, scarce. It's an adjective. And the source gives us a couple of examples. The first one is, details of the accident are scarce.
Right. So when you hear that details are scarce, what picture does that immediately paint? What's scarce telling us about the details?
Well, it tells us there aren't many of them. Simple as that, really. They're few, hard to find, maybe insufficient.
Limited information.
Exactly. The word scarce is modifying details, and the structure is pretty straightforward. Subject details, linking verb are, and then the adjective, scarce.
Describes the state of the details.
Right. It gives you information about the availability or the quantity. You instantly know you're not getting the full story yet.
Information is limited.
Yeah, the supply is low. Okay, now the second example. Food was becoming scarce. How is scarce used similarly here, but what's different about the feel of this sentence?
Well, the core meaning of scarce, not easily available, not enough to meet demand, that's the same.
Still means not much.
Right. But the verb becoming, that adds a really crucial dynamic element, was becoming scarce, suggests a process happening over time.
Ah, right. Not just scarce now, but heading that way. Exactly. It wasn't just a static state, it was getting worse. The situation was deteriorating. So this structure, linking food to scarce with becoming, it really emphasizes that gradual change towards lack.
So both show low supply, but the second one adds that sense of ongoing change.
Precisely. Development over time.
Okay. And from the adjective scarce, the source gives us the adverb scarcely.
Yeah.
How does that shift to an adverb change things? Meaning usage.
Good question. Adverbs, they usually tell us how, when, where, how much something happens. They modify verbs or maybe other adjectives or adverbs.
Right.
And the example here is, we scarcely ever meet. Now, this is a really important one. Scarcely ever.
That phrase sounds familiar.
It's a very common connotation. And it doesn't just mean not much, like the adjective. Scarcely ever is a strong negative phrase. It means almost never.
Ah, okay. So it's about frequency. Very low frequency.
Exactly. So the underlying idea of rarity or lack from scarce gets transformed into indicating an extremely low frequency of an action in this case, meeting.
So you need to know the whole phrase, scarcely ever.
Yes. Understanding it as a chunk, meaning almost never, is really key for fluency. It shows how the adverb form relates to the core idea of lack, but applies it differently to frequency or degree.
Got it. That's a useful one. And then we move to the noun form, scarcity.
Right. So moving from the adjective scarce to the noun scarcity, now we're talking about the state or the condition or even the concept of being scarce.
It becomes the thing itself.
Yes, nouns represent things, ideas, states, and the first example uses it like that. This scarcity is inevitable in less developed countries. Here, scarcity is the subject.
The lack itself is inevitable.
Exactly. The condition of lack is the topic. The sentence treats scarcity as a kind of concrete problem or phenomenon that exists.
It gives it substance. Okay, and then there's this true exam question using scarcity in a really interesting way. Scarcity enhances the pleasure of most things for most people. Wow, that's quite a thought.
Yeah.
How's the noun scarcity working here?
It's fascinating, isn't it? This sentence presents this abstract, almost philosophical idea. Scarcity is the subject again.
And it's doing something.
It is. It's performing an action, enhances, makes something greater, improves its quality or value.
So the fact that something is rare makes it more enjoyable when you finally get it.
That's the idea being presented. The condition of being rare or hard to get increases the pleasure. So scarcity here acts like a tangible concept, a force even, that can influence something else, enhances pleasure.
Right. Analyzing that needs you to see scarcity not just as lack, but as this active factor.
Exactly. And that's common in more academic or philosophical writing. Treating abstract conditions as agents, it really makes you think, doesn't it? How does understanding the noun form like this change how we can talk about abstract ideas, moving from just describing a state to analyzing it as a factor in, say, psychology or economics?
That's a really good point. It opens up how we can use the language. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The next word. Visually, it starts with car, but the meaning is totally different. Carpenter.
Yes, this seems grouped maybe by spelling or sound, but semantically it's in a different world. Carpenter is a concrete noun.
Meaning a person.
Right, a specific type of person. Someone who builds or repairs things made of wood. The examples show this clearly. A master carpenter was in charge of teaching the apprentices.
Okay, typical role. Training others.
And the second one, he was apprenticed to a carpenter at the age of 16.
So someone you learn the trade from. It's about woodworking, construction, that kind of skill.
Exactly. These sentences put the carpenter right into that recognizable context of a trade, of skill, of apprenticeship. You understand immediately who this person is and what they do. It's a clear label for an occupation.
Makes sense. Next up is craft. The source says it can be a noun or a verb. How does that play out?
Okay, let's look at the noun first. The example is, he acquired the craft of paper cutting with the help of his English teacher.
So here, craft is the skill itself.
Precisely. It's a noun meaning a skill or a trade, especially one involving making things by hand, needing dexterity. It's something you can acquire, something you learn.
Like an artisan's skill takes practice.
Exactly. That specialized skill. Now, as a verb, the source doesn't give us a verb example right here, but the meaning is directly connected. To craft something.
Means to make it skillfully.
Yes, often by hand, using that skill, that craft, the noun. You use your craft to craft an object. The verb is the action of applying that skilled knowledge.
Got it. And we have a couple of related words. Craftsman and crafty.
Right. Craftsman is another noun, directly linked to craft the skill. A craftsman is the person who has and practices a craft.
Like the master carpenter, someone highly skilled.
Exactly. A craftsman possesses a craft, but then crafty, that's an adjective, and here's where the meaning takes an interesting turn.
How so?
The source gives the meaning as which translates to cunning, tricky, sly.
Okay, so not about making things anymore.
Not physical things, no. It takes that core idea of skill or cleverness, but applies it to being clever or skillful in a sort of deceptive or strategic way, often for personal gain.
So a craftsman uses skill to create, but a crafty person uses skill like mental agility or cunning maybe to trick someone.
That's the idea. It shows how a word family can branch out. Some words keep the core meaning, others develop a related but distinct sense, sometimes even negative.
That's fascinating. From a positive skill to a potentially negative trait really shows you need to check the specific word and its use.
Absolutely. Always check the part of speech and the common connotations.
So we've covered scarcity, trade, skills. Let's shift now. The source moves to words describing feelings, reactions.
Okay, changing emotional gears now.
First one here is thrill. Noun and verb. What's the basic feeling of a thrill?
A thrill is that sudden, intense feeling of excitement, maybe pleasure, even anticipation.
Like a rush.
Yeah, exactly. As a noun, the example is, it gave me a big thrill to meet my favorite author in person. Here, the thrill is the feeling itself. The meeting caused this intense, positive emotion.
And a big thrill. Sounds very natural.
Very common collocation, yeah. Emphasizes the intensity. Now, as a verb, thrill means to cause that feeling in someone else.
Like this band has thrilled audiences all over the world.
Right. The band is doing the action. They're causing the excitement in the audiences. The verb thrill here takes an object, audiences, the ones being affected.
Okay, and from this we get the word thriller.
Yes. A thriller, that's a noun for a type of book or movie or show, and it's designed specifically to produce that feeling of excitement, suspense, anticipation.
The thrill.
Exactly. It's the thing that delivers the thrill. So this whole word family revolves around intense, usually positive, emotional stimulation.
Got it. Now the next word is agitate. This also seems to be about strong feelings, but maybe different ones. The source hints at that.
It is absolutely different. While both involve strong emotion, agitate usually deals with feelings like disturbance, unease, worry, sometimes provocation leading to restlessness or even public action.
So, more negative or unsettled?
Generally, yes. Compared to the positive buzz of a thrill, the true exam sentence here is very telling. Executives were violently agitated.
Violently agitated.
Okay. Here, agitated is used like an adjective after were, describing the executive state. The structure were agitated implies something made them agitated.
Something caused it.
Right. And the meaning is they were deeply disturbed, upset, maybe provoked to anger, restless. And that adverb, violently, really intensifies it. A strong, maybe uncontrollable emotional disturbance.
Completely different from the fun excitement of a thrill.
Totally different emotional color. And this really underscores how important it is to get the nuance right. Recognizing that agitated pops up in contexts of disturbance or unrest, while thrill is for excitement. That's vital for understanding texts about human reactions or social situations.
It makes you think again about how subtle word choice can be, doesn't it? How picking agitated over, say, upset paints a slightly different picture.
Exactly. Those nuances carry a lot of weight.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Following the source, we've got a set of words ending in ate, often a sign of a verb.
Often, yes, a common verb ending.
First in this set is compensate.
Compensate, okay, it's a verb. It means to give someone something, usually money, because of a loss or damage or suffering, or maybe in return for work or a contribution.
Making up for something.
Pretty much. The first example, her lawyers say she should be compensated for the suffering she had been caused. Here, it's passive should be compensated, meaning someone should give her compensation, likely money, to make up for her suffering.
Right, providing amends. And the true exam sentence shows another angle. The fund will also be used to compensate landowners who set aside habitat. How's compensate working here?
Okay, so the landowners are doing something, setting aside land as habitat. They're probably giving up potential profit from that land.
All right, maybe they can't farm it or build on it.
Exactly. So the fund is used to compensate them, to give them payment or benefits in return for that action, balancing out the economic sacrifice. The structure used to compensate X clearly states the fund's purpose.
So understanding compensate helps you see the relationship. The fund pays them for setting aside the habitat.
Precisely. It shows the incentive mechanism.
And the noun form is compensation.
Right. Compensation is the thing. You get the money, the benefits, whatever is given to make up for the loss or effort. The example, provide extra health compensation, shows it as a concrete benefit.
So compensation is the stuff you receive when you are compensated.
Exactly. The result of the action.
Okay, what about hesitate?
Hesitate. Also a verb. It means to pause or hold back before doing something, often because you're feeling, unsure, doubtful, maybe nervous, or just reluctant.
Holding back.
Yeah. The example, please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any queries. That's a super common phrase, especially in business or formal emails.
Right, you see that all the time.
And it means don't pause, don't feel unsure, just contact me right away if you have questions. It's trying to remove that barrier of reluctance.
Encouraging immediate action.
Okay.
And the exam sentence. Nonetheless, many companies still hesitate to use the web. What's hesitate telling us about these companies?
Okay, here it's hesitate to use. They're holding back, they're reluctant, maybe slow to adopt the web. It implies they have doubts, maybe fear the risks or costs, or just aren't sure how to do it well.
And that nonetheless suggests there are reasons they should be using it.
Exactly. It highlights the contrast. So hesitate here reveals their cautious or resistant attitude. It packs a lot into one verb, doubt, reluctance, inaction.
It captures that feeling of hanging back. And the noun, hesitation.
Hesitation is the noun. It's the act or the state of hesitating, the pause, the uncertainty itself. The example, he spoke fluently and without unnecessary hesitations, uses the plural hesitations.
Meaning pauses or stumbles in speech.
Right. Caused by uncertainty, maybe searching for words. Without unnecessary hesitations describes how smoothly and confidently he spoke, no awkward pauses. The noun captures that concept of holding back.
Okay. Next, negotiate. This sounds like it involves more than one person.
It definitely does. Negotiate is a verb meaning to discuss something formally with others to try and reach an agreement or a compromise. Think business deals, political talks, salary discussions.
A process of back and forth.
Yes, aiming for common ground. The example, we have been negotiating for more pay, shows exactly that, people talking terms, trying to get a better salary.
Trying to reach an agreement on pay. And the exam sentence. Either way, one benefit of an actual organization would be to negotiate better prices.
Yeah.
How does negotiate fit here?
Here, the action to negotiate is presented as a key benefit of this organization, and the goal is explicit: better prices.
So they negotiate in order to get better prices.
Exactly. It shows negotiate often takes an object or a result as its aim, like negotiate a deal and negotiate peace, or here, negotiate better prices. The infinitive phrase explains the purpose of the organization using formal discussion and bargaining to get a specific economic outcome for its members.
Negotiation isn't just talking. It's talking with a purpose.
Precisely. Strategic discussion toward a goal.
Okay, next word. Candidate. We hear this a lot, maybe in elections.
Yeah, very common noun. Its general meaning is someone applying for something or being considered for a role, a job, an award.
Like in the first example, candidates are allowed to use dictionaries in this examination.
Right. Here, candidates are simply the people taking the exam, the participants being assessed.
Straightforward. But the exam sentence uses it differently. All tests require a potential candidate with whom to compare DNA. What kind of candidate is this? Not an exam taker.
No, this is more scientific or forensic. Here, a candidate isn't applying for anything. It's a person, or maybe a sample, whose DNA is suitable or relevant for comparison.
Like a potential match in an investigation.
Could be. Or someone identified as relevant for a specific analysis. They are a candidate for comparison. The phrase potential candidate emphasizes this someone who could be chosen or used for this specific purpose.
So candidate is broader than just jobs or elections. It can mean someone or something suitable for a particular purpose.
Exactly. Suitable, available, relevant for selection or analysis. Much broader.
That's useful to know. Okay, next is considerate, an adjective.
Considerate. Yes, it describes a person or their actions. It means thinking about other people's feelings, needs, comfort, showing kindness, thoughtfulness.
Being mindful of others.
Right. The examples show this. She is always polite and considerate towards her employees. That describes her character.
An ongoing trait.
And the other one, it was very considerate of him to wait.
That describes a specific action as being thoughtful.
Based on awareness of others.
Exactly. Empathy and acting on it. Okay, now, careful. This next one looks and sounds very similar, but it's spelled differently and means something completely different. Considerable.
Yes. This pair is a classic point of confusion, super important distinction. Considerable is also an adjective, but it means large in amount, size, degree, or importance.
Not about thoughtfulness at all.
No, purely about quantity, scale, significance. The example, damage to the building was considerable, means the damage was large, extensive, significant.
A substantial amount of damage.
Okay.
And the true exam sentence. The industry also points out that real graphs require considerable amounts of water. What does considerable tell us about the water?
It tells us the amount is large, a lot of water. Considerable amounts is a very common collocation, meaning a large quantity.
So the sentence is highlighting a significant resource need for real graphs.
Exactly. Understanding considerable is key to grasping the scale being discussed, and this really drives home the point. One letter difference, considerate versus considerable, completely changes the meaning.
Really have to pay attention to spelling. Makes you wonder how many other pairs like that are out there.
Quite a few. It pays to be precise.
And we also have the noun consideration. How does this relate?
Consideration is the noun form. It's related to the verb consider, which means to think carefully. So consideration usually refers to the act or process of thinking carefully about something, deliberation.
Like take something into consideration.
Exactly. Meaning think about it before deciding. The source definition, Gutsche, careful thought, deep thought, deliberation, points to this mental process. It can sometimes link back to considerate, like show consideration for others, show thoughtfulness, but often it's about the thinking process itself.
Okay, so that 8 set had verbs, nouns, and those tricky adjectives. Now, another group that seems related by look or sound, especially around copying or causing action.
Right. Another cluster where words might look alike but mean different things.
Starting with imitate.
Imitate. It's a verb. Means to copy someone or something, their action, style, appearance, manner, to follow as a model.
It's like the example. Her style of painting has been imitated by other artists.
Right, passive voice there. Other artists copied her style. It's about replication, making something similar to an original.
Making a copy, following a pattern. In the exam sentence, we unconsciously imitate the behavior we see every day.
This uses imitate actively. We imitate the behavior, and that unconsciously is interesting. It suggests copying isn't always deliberate.
Like we just absorb behaviors.
Yeah, it points to imitation as a fundamental way we learn socially, sometimes without even realizing it. The structure is direct. Subject, we, acts imitate on the object behavior.
And the noun form is imitation.
Imitation, right. The noun can be the act of imitating, or it can be the product, the copy itself. Could be a genuine copy or maybe a fake, like consideration. It can be the action or the result.
Okay, now, very close spelling. Simulate. How is this different from imitate?
Good question. Simulate also involves creating a likeness, but often it means creating a model or a recreation of a process, a system, or a condition, especially using technology for, say, training or study.
It's like a flight simulator.
Exactly. Or it can mean to pretend or feign something, like the example. I tried to simulate surprise at the news.
Meaning you weren't really surprised, but you acted like you were.
Precisely. You tried to create the appearance of surprise, to model that behavior, even if it wasn't genuine.
Creating a representation.
Yeah.
And the exam sentence uses it technologically. Algorithms that are used to simulate human interactions are creating many of these concerns.
This is the modeling meaning. Algorithms, computer instructions are used to create artificial representations or models of how humans interact.
Not real interactions, but computer versions that act like them.
Right. For AI, social modeling, things like that, the structure used to simulate X clearly shows the algorithm's purpose. Understanding simulate here is crucial for the tech context, creating artificial versions of real-world processes.
And that raises interesting questions, like the sentence suggests, about the implications.
Definitely. When tech can simulate human behavior so well, what does that mean for authenticity or manipulation? Big questions.
Indeed. Okay, another similar-looking word, but sounds different and means something else entirely. Stimulate.
Yes, another look-alike trap. Stimulate is a verb meaning to encourage something to grow, develop, become more active, interested, lively, to arouse or excite.
So it's about causing activity, not copying.
Exactly, causing something to start or increase. The example, the article can be used to stimulate discussion among students, means the article can provoke or initiate discussion. Get it going.
Sparking it into action. And the second example, a person who is unable to stimulate others' curiosity may appear somewhat boring.
Here, stimulate is used with curiosity. It means to arouse or activate curiosity in others. The sentence describes someone who fails to do this. It shows stimulate works with abstract things like curiosity or discussion, causing them to become more active.
Activating, not replicating. Big difference from imitate or simulate.
Huge difference.
Okay, this next one looks like simulate, but again, quite different. Simultaneous.
Right. Simultaneous is an adjective. It means happening, existing, or done at the exact same time. Purely about timing.
Concurrently.
Yes. Like the example. They will provide a simultaneous translation of the president's speech into English. The translation happens at the same time as the speech.
Live translation. And the game release example. The new game is set for simultaneous release in the US, Canada, and Europe on September 19th.
Means it launches everywhere at the same moment on that date. Simultaneous release, common phrase for global launches, perfect timing coordination.
Okay, and the adverb is simultaneously.
Simultaneously, meaning at the same time, it describes how things happen. That long exam sentence uses it effectively. As science and technology progressed, the center was simultaneously looking to a time when leading researchers could also be artists, and vice versa.
Okay, let's break that down. How does simultaneously work in that complex sentence? Simultaneously looking to a time.
Well, the sentence sets up a context. science progressing, leading to more specialization. Simultaneously connects this external trend to something happening at the same time inside the research center, their vision for the future.
So two things were happening in parallel.
Exactly. As science was changing out there, the center at the same time was developing this vision. The adverb simultaneously is the key link, showing these two ongoing situations or processes were concurrent. In complex sentences like this, these adverbs are vital for tracking the timeline and relationships between different ideas.
It holds the different threads together in time. Makes sense. Now, this next word, symphony, feels like the odd one out in this group.
It does seem a bit different, doesn't it? Symphony is a noun very specific to music. It's a long, complex piece for a full orchestra, usually in 4 movements.
Like the example, it's the first performance of the State Symphony Orchestra in the city.
Right, an orchestra named for the music it plays. Now, etymologically, the root does connect to sounding together, symphony, which maybe vaguely echoes the together idea in simultaneous.
A very distant echo, maybe.
Extremely distant. In modern English, its meaning is purely musical. It's a good reminder that while word roots can give clues, the established current meaning is what matters most.
Good point. Okay, from music to timing of a different sort. Our next group from the source is all about delaying or putting things off.
Right. Words for postponement.
First up, postpone.
Postpone, a verb. Means to arrange for something, like an event or a meeting, to happen at a later date or time than originally planned. It's a rescheduling.
Like the example, the game has already been postponed 3 times.
Clearly shows the date being moved later, repeatedly.
Setting a new later time. And the second example, we'll have to postpone the meeting until next week.
Shows the typical structure. Postpone takes an object, the meeting, and often a phrase saying when the new time is until next week. Pretty straightforward rescheduling.
Okay, now delay. Noun or verb?
Right. As a noun, a delay is that period when something is stopped, slowed down, or just doesn't happen on time.
The waiting period.
Yeah, like, we apologize for the delay in answering your letter. The delay is that unwanted gap in time, a specific instance of being held back.
The hold-up itself. And as a verb?
As a verb, to delay means to cause that hold-up, to make something happen later or more slowly than planned. The source doesn't give a simple active verb example here, but the noun tells you the core idea. To delay something is to cause a delay.
And the exam question uses it as a verb. It's also a good idea to delay the conversation if you are in a meeting or other public space.
Here, to delay the conversation means to put it off, make it happen later. It's similar to postpone, but delay can sometimes also imply slowing something down, not just rescheduling it.
And the if clause gives the reason the current place isn't suitable.
Exactly. Delay it because you're in a meeting. Context matters.
Okay, and another verb for putting things off, defer. How is this one different?
Defer often sounds a bit more formal, maybe more official than postpone or delay. It can also mean yielding to someone else's opinion, but we're focused on the put-off meaning here. The example, the department deferred the decision for 6 months. Shows it used like postpone, delay, the decision was put off for a set time. It suggests a conscious choice to wait on something important.
Putting off an official decision. And the exam sentence, leaving the postal service unable to pay its bills except by deferring vital modernization. What's being deferred here and why?
Okay, here, deferring vital modernization explains how they're managing or coping by putting off essential updates or improvements. Vital modernization suggests something important is being postponed.
And it's linked to not being able to pay bills.
Right. Defer here strongly implies putting off something significant or necessary, probably due to constraints like lack of money. It often suggests a more strategic or forced postponement of something crucial.
So while they overlap, defer might suggest more weight or necessity behind the postponement compared to just delaying a chat.
That's often the nuance, yes. Formality, importance, strategic necessity. These might lead you to choose defer. It raises that interesting question. How do we choose between postpone, delay, and defer? Context, formality, the nature of what's being postponed, it all plays a role.
Adds a layer of complexity. Okay, final group from the source list. Words starting with differ or containing similar roots. First, differ.
Differ, a verb. It means either to be unlike something else, distinct, or to disagree in opinion.
2 main senses.
Yeah. The example, French, differs from English in this respect, uses the be unlike meaning. French isn't the same as English in this specific way. Differ from X is a common structure for comparison.
Highlighting a contrast in the exam sentence, their brain reactions also differ.
Here, differ is used intransitively, no object. It just means the brain reactions are different. Different from each other, maybe different from a baseline, depending on the full context.
They vary.
Right. The context suggests they're different when people feel like the center of attention. The simple structure points out a variation.
And the adjective is different.
Different. The state of not being the same. Super common adjective describes nouns that aren't identical. It's the adjectival form of the verb differ.
Now, add the prefix in and we get indifferent. How does that prefix flip the meaning?
Good question. In often means not, so indifferent. While it might look like not differing, its actual meaning is having no particular interest or concern, being unconcerned. You don't show a difference in your attitude. You just don't care either way.
Ah, so it's about lack of interest or feeling.
Exactly. The example, indifferent relationships are neither positive nor negative, describes relationships lacking strong feelings. They're neutral because the people involved don't seem to care strongly.
No strong preference or concern shown. A state of apathy, almost.
That's a good way to put it. Lack of engagement.
And the noun, indifference.
Indifference is the noun, the state or quality of being indifferent. Lack of interest, concern. The example, what she said is a matter of complete indifference to me, means her words have zero importance to the speaker.
A matter of indifference. Sounds like a set phrase.
It is a common way to say, I don't care at all. The noun captures that abstract state.
Okay. Now, suffer usually sounds negative.
It usually is. Suffer is a verb, means to experience something bad or unpleasant pain, hardship, illness, loss, difficulty.
Like the example, I hate to see animals suffering.
Right. Intransitive use there. They are experiencing hardship generally.
Undergoing pain. And the exam sentence gives specifics. Like the majority of authors, he had to suffer many disappointments and rejections along the way. What's being suffered?
Here, suffer takes direct objects, disappointments and rejections. So it's transitive. He had to undergo or endure these specific unpleasant things.
Part of the author's journey, perhaps?
The sentence implies that. It links the subject, he, to these negative experiences, disappointments and rejections, via suffer. Understanding it here means grasping the hardships involved.
In the noun form, suffering.
Suffering. The noun refers to the experience or condition of pain, hardship, loss. The source gives s. Pain, suffering, torment. It's the state itself.
Okay, let's look at transfer.
Transfer, verb, means to move something or someone from one place, position, or group to another.
Like the example, he announced that the company had been transferred to another city.
Passive voice again. The company was moved. A straightforward physical relocation.
Physical movement. But the exam sentence uses it more abstractly. F. Ferraro suggests the result be transferred to other parts of Asia. How does transfer work here? Not physically moving results.
No, this is conceptual. The results, maybe from a study, aren't being physically moved. Transfer here means their applicability, their validity, their relevance might extend to or apply in a different area, other parts of Asia.
So the findings might be relevant elsewhere.
Exactly. The structure transfer to X points to the new domain of applicability. This shows transfer can be physical movement or the abstract application of knowledge, skills, or findings from one context to another. Crucial distinction for academic reading.
Knowing which meaning is intended is key. Okay, next, infer.
Infer. Verb. Means to conclude something based on evidence and reasoning rather than being told it directly. Reading between the lines.
Deduction.
Right. The example, it is reasonable to infer that the government knew about these deals, shows this. Based on some unstated clues, the logical conclusion, inference, is that they knew.
Using evidence to figure something out. And the second example is so important for readers. Much of the meaning must be inferred from the context.
Absolutely vital. It explicitly says you often have to deduce meaning of words, phrases, ideas by looking at the surrounding text, the context.
Can't just rely on definitions alone.
No way. The structure inferred from X is key, where X is your evidence source. Infer is a fundamental reading skill for understanding implicit information. It goes beyond just knowing words, doesn't it? How does that ability to infer unlock deeper reading comprehension?
That's a skill we constantly need to hone. Now, similar sound, different word.
Yeah.
Refer. How does this relate or not relate to infer?
It's distinct in modern use, though they share a Latin root about carrying. Refer is a verb meaning to mention or allude to something, or to send someone something to a source for help, info, or a decision.
Two different uses there.
Yes. The example, the company says it has referred the matter to its lawyers, uses the send for help meaning. The issue, matter, was sent to the lawyers for them to handle. Refer X to Y is the structure.
Sending for expert handling. But the exam sentence uses it differently. This refers to discrimination against those whose surnames begin with a letter in the lower half of the alphabet.
Here, refers to means is about, relates to, concerns, or points towards. This, whatever came before, is being connected to the idea of that specific discrimination.
So refers to links an idea to its explanation or definition.
Exactly. It's a very common signposting phrase in explanations. Helps you follow the logic.
Okay. And from refer, the noun reference.
Reference, the noun, can mean the act of mentioning something, or it can mean a source you consult for information.
Action or source.
Right. The example, the book is full of references to growing up in India, uses the mentioning meaning. Lots of mentions of that topic.
Many mentions. And the exam sentence, from science fiction and reference books.
Here, reference books are the sources you consult, dictionaries, encyclopedias, etc. This uses the source of information meaning. So, like imitation, the noun can be the action or the thing involved.
Another fer word. Confer?
Confer, verb. Two main meanings here. One is to grant or bestow something like a title or degree.
Giving something officially.
Right. The other meaning is to discuss something with others, to consult, exchange opinions, get advice.
Like the example. He wanted to confer with his colleagues before reaching a decision.
That's the discuss meaning. Confer with X, have a formal talk with X for consultation before deciding.
Formal discussion. But the exam sentence uses the other meaning. Robotics, the science of conferring various human capabilities on machines.
This uses the grant or bestow meaning. Robotics is defined as the science of giving or granting human abilities onto machines.
Wow, conferring abilities on machines.
Exactly. The structure, confer X on Y, give X to Y. It's an abstract use here, not conferring a title, but capabilities. Understanding the specific use is key to getting the definition of robotics in that sentence. It's quite a powerful image.
It really is. Conferring capabilities, almost like granting powers. The noun is conference.
Conference. Noun, a formal meeting where people gather to discuss a topic, often professional or academic. It's the event where people confer in the discussion sense. The noun is the gathering for the action.
Okay, shifting again now to fertile.
Fertile, adjective, means able to produce a lot fruit, crops, young. Productive, capable of reproduction, relates to abundance.
Like farmers worked in the fertile valleys.
Right, describing land that's rich, good for growing things, productive soil.
Productive land. And the second example, few people are as fertile as in the past.
This uses fertile for the biological ability of people to reproduce, have children. So it applies to land and living beings capable of producing abundance or offspring.
Got it. And the noun? Fertilizer.
Fertilizer,
Yeah.
Noun. A substance you add to soil to make it more fertile, helps crops grow better.
The thing that causes or improves fertility.
Exactly. The agent that promotes the quality described by the adjective.
Okay, last word on the list. Prefer.
Prefer, verb, means to like one thing better than another, to choose or favor one option over others. The source gives a few examples in related words.
Like a local firm is to be preferred.
Yeah, that structure is to be preferred sounds a bit formal or prescriptive. It means a local firm should be the preferred choice. It's considered better. A recommendation.
Identifying the better option. And the second example. We prefer to help people and organizations make the right choice, rather than legislating on such matters.
This shows prefer with infinitive verbs, prefer to help, and that common structure prefer X rather than Y. Clearly stating a choice between two actions, they favor helping over legislating.
Okay. The noun form. Preference.
Preference, noun. The act or state of preferring, a choice, a liking, favoring one thing. The exam question, thinking too much can also harm our ability to form preferences, uses the plural preferences, meaning the choices, tastes, or likings we develop.
The ability to decide what you like.
Right. The capacity to have favored choices, the noun captures that concept.
And the adjective. Preferable.
Preferable, adjective, means more desirable, more suitable, better than something else. The example, anything was preferable to the tense atmosphere at home, uses preferable to X, meaning anything was better compared to that atmosphere. It describes something worthy of being preferred.
So the prefer family is all about liking something more, the verb to do it, the noun for the choice, preference, and the adjective for something being better, preferable.
Exactly. All centered around choosing, valuing, favoring one thing over another.
Wow, okay. That was quite a journey through that list. We've hit scarcity, feelings, actions, copying, causing, timing, differences, challenges, movement, inferring, referring, conferring, fertility, and preferring.
It's a really diverse set when you lay it all out.
But seeing them in those different sentences, especially the exam ones, it really does bring them to life, doesn't it? Much more than just a definition.
Absolutely. What's really fascinating is how analyzing the usage reveals so much. We saw those word family connections and also the divergences, like with crafty.
Right, and how context is just crucial for ambiguity, like with candidate or transfer.
And even tiny details matter. That prefix in indifferent or the single letter in considerate versus considerable, huge meaning shifts.
Those distinctions are critical.
And spotting those common collocations scarcely ever considerable amounts refer to, that helps grasp a meaning and helps you sound more natural yourself.
Thinking about those tricky pairs, seeing them side by side in examples, really helps cement the difference. And analyzing those exam sentences, it really builds your reading muscles, doesn't it? Reading for that precise meaning, not just the general gist, training your brain to spot the clues.
It does. And that brings up a key question for you, the listener. Now that you've explored these words with us, how can you make this active?
Yeah, how can you use them?
Maybe try spotting them when you're reading this week, or even challenge yourself to use one or two when you're speaking or writing. Actively testing your understanding in new situations is really how you make these words your own.
That's such good advice. Keep listening, keep reading, keep practicing, keep connecting those linguistic dots. That's the real way to dive deep.
Keep exploring the language. It's a journey.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.